This Arizona Cardinals mock draft is different. If you're watching this video, you've probably seen dozens of other Arizona Cardinals mock drafts from across the internet. But the thing that sets this mock draft apart from the others you've seen is a level of detail and research that's gone into its preparation. So before we get into the actual mock draft, let me briefly go over what has gone into preparing this draft. Back in February, I did a video trying to figure out what Monty Ossenfort's draft strategy might look like. In this video, I looked at the way that the front offices Monty Ossenfort worked and had draft during the time he was with those organizations. The idea being here, if we look at the organizations where Monty Ossenfort cut his teeth, so to speak, that might give us an idea of how he's going to approach the draft. Certainly, Ossenfort's going to put his own spin on his draft strategy, but it's reasonable to think that the philosophies and practices he learned in those organizations is going to be a foundation for how he approaches the draft. So based on that, I put together this chart that's sort of a heat map of how those organizations use their draft capital. And again, while this isn't going to be a strict guide for how Ossenfort approaches the draft, it does give some guidance as to where he might look to pick certain positions. The next piece of research that went into this mock draft is a video I did in early March in which I looked at the offensive system that I think Drew Petzing is going to bring to the Cardinals from the Cleveland Browns, with a particular emphasis on the run blocking scheme. And based on that, which is likely going to be a zone blocking scheme with a particular emphasis on wide zone and outside zone, I identified the kind of offensive linemen the Cardinals are likely to prioritize, namely athletic offensive linemen who are good at pulling. The research I did in this video informed how I approached drafting offensive linemen in this mock. Now, in addition to these videos, I've kept a running tab on the reported meetings that the Cardinals have had with draft prospects. And I use these reports as sort of an indicator of specific players the Cardinals seem to be interested in. Another thing that I've done is I've listened to every press conference and interview I can find with owner Michael Bidwell, GM Monty Ossenfort, and the coaching staff, including Jonathan Gannon and some of his coordinators. Now, you don't typically get a lot of good insight from these interviews. They're typically pretty evasive when it comes to specific things about the draft, but there have been some clues in that, such as a discussion of an emphasis on high football character and personal character, and Michael Bidwell saying that they plan to address the trenches. I've also discussed Cardinals draft strategies during interviews with respected voices like Kyle Odegaard, Eric Eager, and Brett Coleman. And the information shared during these interviews has informed how I approached this mock. Now, on top of all of that, I've also looked at and done hundreds of mock drafts. If you're subscribed to my channel, you're probably familiar with my mock draft Monday live streams that I did from January up until just a few weeks ago. During the course of those mock draft live streams, I've done hundreds of my own mock drafts, looked at hundreds of mock drafts from Cardinals fans, as well as dozens of mock drafts from other content creators and analysts. Finally, after doing all of that, I worked through about a dozen drafts of my final mock. And after working through those, I came to a mock draft that I think best represents what the Cardinals are likely to do on draft weekend. Now, let's start by looking at the actual draft picks that are involved. The Cardinals currently have 8 picks in the 2023 draft, including 5 of their original picks and 3 compensatory picks. Now, it's widely expected that the Cardinals are going to trade out of the 3rd overall pick. And it's also widely expected that they're going to try to trade DeAndre Hopkins. Now, there have been a lot of proposed trades and trade partners when it comes to these 2 moves, and ultimately I had to settle on what I think are the most likely trade partners, but I fully acknowledge that they could go in a lot of other directions with these trades. First, let's look at the move I'm proposing the Cardinals will make for the 3rd overall pick. I think one of the more likely trade partners is the Tennessee Titans. In this proposed trade, I have the Cardinals giving up the 3rd overall pick, receiving the Titans' 11th pick in the 1st round, pick 72 in the 3rd round, a 2024 1st round pick, and a 2025 2nd round pick. Now, a lot of people have used the trade the 49ers did when they went up to get Trey Lance as a comp for this move, and this trade is not far off from it. Now, they might end up getting a little bit more, a little bit less, but I think this is roughly in the ballpark of what that trade package would look like. Now, for DeAndre Hopkins, things get a little bit trickier. The report is that the Cardinals want a 2nd round pick plus additional draft capital for Hopkins, but that other teams are balking at that price. In the end, I settled on a trade package with the Buffalo Bills, with the Cardinals getting the 91st overall pick in the 3rd round and a 5th round in 2024. Now, I realize there's a wide range of potential outcomes here, but I had to settle on something for the purposes of this draft, and this is what I went with. So with those trades, that gives the Arizona Cardinals a total of 10 picks going into the draft. So with the Cardinals trading back to 11, the top edge rushers are off the board likely at this point. Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson, Jalen Carter, the defensive interior lineman out of Georgia, is probably off the board. There's also probably 1 or 2 of the top cornerbacks off the board. So with the 11th overall pick, I went with Georgia edge rusher Nolan Smith. Smith is a 22-year-old senior. He's 6'2", 238 pounds, and he had an impressive combine highlighted by a 4.39 40-yard dash. Smith is a little bit small for an edge rusher, but contrary to what you might think, he's actually really strong against the run. In fact, some scouting reports say he's better against the run than he is rushing the passer. But the things that really drew me to Nolan Smith as a likely pick for the Cardinals are, one, he compares favorably to Hassan Reddick, a player that Jonathan Gannon coached in Philadelphia. He's also drawn comparisons to Micah Parsons as sort of a versatile edge who can also play off the ball when he needs to. But equally as important as this is the fact that he has impeccable character, arguably the highest character player in this draft. And for an organization that's talked about trying to add character to the culture, a player with Smith's athletic profile and character seems like it would be very attractive to this coaching staff and front office. Now, moving on to the second round, I have a pick that I think might come as a bit of a surprise to people. But at pick 34 in the second round, I'm going with wide receiver Jonathan Mingo. Mingo is a 21-year-old senior who's 6'2", 220 pounds. He's an outstanding athlete, but the one knock on him is that his production at Ole Miss wasn't elite. But despite his limited production, he's been getting a lot of buzz as someone who's going to be a day 2 pick, if not a late first rounder. And coaches are going to be enticed by his athletic profile that in many ways compares to Deebo Samuel of the San Francisco 49ers. While not many people have had the Cardinals taking a wide receiver early in their mock drafts, they have met with Jonathan Mingo, and I've got a feeling he could be the pick here at 34 if he's not already off the board. Next, we go to the first of 4 third-round picks that the Cardinals have in this mock. At pick 66, near the beginning of the third round, I have the Arizona Cardinals getting their center of the future in Luke Whippler. Whippler is a 21-year-old junior out of Ohio State. He's 6'3" and 303 pounds. Whippler is widely viewed as one of the top 3 centers in this draft class and had one of the best combine performances of any of the centers in this draft. Now, John Michael Schmitz is an outstanding center and probably the best center in this class, but Luke Whippler isn't that far behind, and he's younger than Schmitz, so he still has more room to develop. Now, it is possible Whippler will be gone by the time they get to pick 66, and if that happens, I could see them looking at one of the other centers on the draft board, like Olusegun Olatimi, Juice Scruggs, etc. But if he's there, I think Luke Whippler would be a great pick for the Cardinals at number 66. Next, with the 72nd pick in the third round, I have the Arizona Cardinals selecting cornerback Garrett Williams out of Syracuse. Williams is a 21-year-old redshirt sophomore. He's 5'10", 192 pounds, and is coming off of an ACL injury. If he weren't recovering from that injury, there's a good chance he'd be more of an early second round pick, if not late first round pick. But the tools are there, and I think Williams could be an outstanding value at pick 72. Next up, with the 91st pick in the third round, I have the Cardinals selecting Jervon Dexter Sr., defensive interior lineman out of Florida. Dexter is a 21-year-old sophomore. He's 6'6" and 310 pounds. He has outstanding physical tools for the position at the NFL, but the one knock on him is he does seem to be a little bit slow off the snap. Now, many people think that's something coaching staffs can work with him on, as his testing numbers suggest he should be quicker off the line. But for a team that needs some major help on the interior defensive line, getting Dexter in the third round would be a great addition. Now, with their last pick in the third round, number 96 overall, I have the Arizona Cardinals going with running back Israel Abanikanda. Abanikanda is a 20-year-old junior out of Pittsburgh, and he's 5'11", 216 pounds. Now, as a runner, Abanikanda is a home run threat. He has great speed, and when he finds daylight, he can take it to the house. He does need to work on his ability to get yards after contact, but in the wide zone running scheme that the Cardinals are likely to emphasize, his ability to make a cut and head up field would be a great weapon in this offense. Going on to the fourth round with pick 105, I have the Cardinals finding a true slot cornerback in Keytrell Clark out of Louisville. Clark is a 22-year-old junior. He's 5'10" and 181 pounds. He is aggressive in attacking screens and has all the tools you look for in a slot cornerback. Now we go on to the fifth round at pick 168. Here I have the Arizona Cardinals taking guard tackle Braden Daniels out of Utah. Daniels is a 22-year-old junior. He's 6'4", 294 pounds, and at Utah he played both tackle and guard. I think, however, there's a good chance they would look to play him at guard at the NFL level. But it's not outside of the realm of possibility that they do keep him at tackle. Either way, I think his athleticism makes him a great fit for the wide zone offense they're going to be running. Next up, in round 6 with pick 180, I have the Cardinals grabbing another offensive lineman, McClendon Curtis out of Chattanooga. He's a 23-year-old senior who's 6'6", 324 pounds, and he's projected to potentially play either guard or tackle at the next level. Now, based on his size, I think he's more likely to play tackle for the Cardinals, but I could see them moving him inside. Finally, we get to the Cardinals' last pick, number 213 in round 6. And with this pick, I have the Cardinals going with safety Kayvon Merriweather out of Iowa. Merriweather's a 23-year-old senior. He's 6 foot, 205 pounds, and has average but not elite athleticism for the position. He did post outstanding grades per PFF with an overall grade of 88.1 in the 2022 season. And considering all the uncertainty surrounding Budda Baker, it makes sense for the Cardinals to add some depth to the safety position. So one more time to review these picks. At pick 11, I have Nolan Smith, edge rusher. At pick 34, Jonathan Mingo, wide receiver. At pick 66, Luke Whippler, center. At pick 72, Garrett Williams, cornerback. At pick 91, Jervon Dexter Sr., defensive interior line. Pick 96, Israel Abanikanda, running back. Pick 105, Keitrell Clark, cornerback. Pick 168, Braden Daniels, guard tackle. Pick 180, McClendon Curtis, guard tackle. And pick 213, Kayvon Merriweather, safety. So there it is, my final mock draft for the 2023 season. Who do you want to see the Cardinals take in the first round? Who are some players you like on day 2 and day 3 that you'd like to see the Cardinals draft? Let me know in the comments below. And if you'd like to see a more detailed draft preview of the Arizona Cardinals, check out this live stream here that I did with Walter Mitchell, writer for Revenge of the Birds. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on The Cardinal Rule.